Thank you for having me here today, Steve Clutch. So one of the biggest problems these days is that we have greenwashing. So many of the claims are a little bogus or misleading, and some executives allegedly even acknowledge that they actually just want to mislead the audience. And how can we solve that, or kind of which role does technology may play in ESG? So environmental, social, and governance impacts. So we can see that it is an intersection, which is roughly here, where we can use DLT, specifically part of like the provenance part, that we can integrate information into the token, and in that regard we can then have like supporting ESG aims and goals, objectives, by just using what is at our heart, which is like blockchain, AI, and a couple of other technologies in that direction. Effectively kind of on the voluntary and mandatory carbon markets, this is very useful kind of to have an intersection with DLT. All right, I want to present you like two projects. The one is Carrot Foundation, which is mainly a recycling to earn way. So it's all about circular economy. And the other one is greener tokens, where they are preserving an area within the Amazon forest. Let's start with Carrot first. It's a recycling to earn approach. So it's a digital measurement and kind of recording and verification way. So you want to have it all on chain. It's a network approach, and we want to have an inclusive circular economy. This is why kind of, if we look at the planet today, we see there's a lot of inefficiencies. We see on the one hand side that kind of most of the things we produce tend to land in a sort of a landfill, so kind of in a deposit or being just kind of thrown away somewhere and not recycled. And that's one of the biggest problems, because actually resource consumption will go up like 3 times in near future. We also will have like a lot of waste which is generated out of that. And ultimately we have then greenhouse gas emissions, which will lead to a pretty substantial increase in temperature, global warming, as we experience it these days. So what can we do about that? We could like reuse about 90% of the resources that we are currently just dumping or wasting by doing some recycling. And with that, we could preserve our natural resources and even help ourselves on the way. What we could also do is actually we could employ a lot of people along the way and generate jobs. So this is pretty important as well, kind of. If we double our current circularity rate, in the sense that we would double the amount of recycled resources we would have a very significant impact. We could address like 85% of the greenhouse gas emissions. And just to put that into comparison, by having all the Paris Treaty measures implemented, we could not address a fraction of this here. So really kind of increasing recycling will be one of the best ways to solve the issues we have. And since circular economy is the answer, we can really not do it alone. So kind of we need to have a community approach on that. So we need to look into the people that generate the waste, those that actually handle waste, and everyone which is producing the rules around it, the organizations, and basically everyone in society has a stake on that. So we shall reuse and recycle what the polluters do and make a network together. And I want to explain you how we do that. So we have a real-world activity, which means we have kind of the garbage that is put out of your doors that is being collected. We record that with some APIs in the moment where it reaches the treatment facility, and kind of we can tap in onto like the ERP, the enterprise resource management systems like SAP or so on. Then we can give it like a mess ID, in the sense that we would just identify, okay, which garbage bag has been deposited in front of which store and what travel route has it gone through, where did it arrive, and was the treatment facility like a professional waste composting facility. By doing so, we can certify that there has been some actual recycling. We can then measure what is the environmental gain as compared to having like just a landfill. And then we can issue and sell kind of carbon credits out of that difference. And we can also register everything on chain because we can issue them in a tokenized way. So that's a part of the governance, and if it look like this is kind of how it looks like on the platform of Carrot. And to just go through kind of the process, once again, you have like a waste generator, which is basically us or kind of the households. And then you have like a bin custodian and the hauler, which is basically the guys that pick it up and bring it to the treatment facility. You have a processor, recycler, and all along that, it's basically just the mass. So 1 kilo of organic waste all along the way where it has been. It's just a journey basically in the real world. And that's one layer, and we can add the other layer on top of that, which then brings us to kind of have a circular economy. Because in the end, when we sell the token, we can credit back by smart contract pretty easily actually to everyone that has contributed a part of the proceeds. And by doing that, you start earning money by doing recycling. And we believe that kind of instead of having a stick and try to punish people that don't do recycling, you better incentivize them by giving them more money. And actually one of the founders of Carrot Foundation, he went around kind of for 1 year in Brazil and kind of collected the organic waste in the restaurants and increased basically the recycling part of quota of that from almost 0 to something over 90% because they started earning money with it and kind of that started making sense for them. So overall, kind of it's always good to incentivize people instead of trying to punish them just. Yeah. So of course, kind of you want to avoid greenwashing, so you want to certify the whole process with Bureau Veritas and kind of a couple of people that kind of are accredited and really check these things. Yeah, and if we kind of look at how carbon credits are structured this day, you see that these are not really trusted or kind of not trustworthy even, because sometimes they're certified like 3 times the same thing, or kind of it's pretty expensive and it's not really clear what's beyond it. But in this case, you can really look on the blockchain and you can verify, okay, what was certified, why, and kind of what was the journey and everything. So kind of blockchain gives you that layer of transparency that you were looking for, and it's of course scalable and pretty inexpensive. And we see ourselves at the center of a bigger system and a network, so really believe in this community approach. One of the first things is kind of is bold, so we try to sell kind of this carbon credits, which are recycling credits, because we recycle and kind of on that you have the environmental gains. You can click and read kind of afterwards if you're interested. And our mission here for Carrot Foundation is to kind of increase by 90% within 15 years the global recycling rate. That would be amazing and hopefully even save a little bit our planet. Oh, sorry, yeah. Feel free to take a picture. Yeah, and what I would also like to talk about is about greener tokens, which is a second project. Greener tokens, they have the objective of preserving a part of the Amazon forest. So Brazil overall is one of the biggest emitter of kind of pollution, and it has also a very big amount of forest. When we look at kind of the greenhouse gas emitters, we see that Brazil is like number 5 in the world, so they are very high. And if we look into the specific sectors where those greenhouse gas emissions happen, like forest is astonishingly number 1. So the problem is that actually that they don't protect the forest enough, and so kind of you generate those emissions. It also means on the other side that kind of if you would protect the forest, so you do reforestation and so on, you have an immense potential on doing good. And Brazil is, on the interesting side, very nice, well positioned to have these nature-based solutions, NBS, because it's rather cheap. Kind of, you have rather cheap labor and kind of surface, so that you can do pretty easily actually reforest or kind of preserve forest and then do good in that direction. So the question is maybe also kind of why would you do that, or kind of is there any market for that? And the market is there. It's kind of about 1 trillion in the regards of carbon credits in the coming years and so on. And kind of we still need a solution for greenhouse gas emissions, so better start working a bit on every front. And yeah, Brazil could actually, instead of being just one of the biggest polluter, become the carbon sink and kind of part of very leading the solution for issues that we have at the moment. So why invest? I kind of leave that up to you, but I mean, you will see that carbon emissions and basically kind of all sort of emissions are starting to become even more kind of subject of getting a price tag on it. So people and companies especially get aware of it, that this has a cost and that this needs to be somehow priced in. This is why also investment in those assets is becoming more interesting. We see roughly kind of an increase of 30% per year, steadily over the years. And what I want to show you is actually how it is done in this case. So we see, before we go into my case, just kind of briefly, we see a lot of different topics or kind of areas where you can have like these carbon credits derived from. So you have like this waste management, as we've a little seen before, agriculture, renewable energy, solar panels, and kind of tons of different areas where it comes from. And I mean, some you like more and some you like less, but what we see is that regenerative finance is becoming a big trend and actually will be, let's say, using blockchain and other technologies to do something good. What we can see is, okay, we use blockchain in this case. We also use like soul-bound tokens. Probably you're all tech savvy and you know that soul-bound tokens are just non-transferable tokens once they're deployed. And we have like CO2 credits. What we do is here, we protect the forest and the biodiversity in that area. And then there has been like a university which will then come in and really kind of manually, they just stake out an area of the forest, about 1,000 square meters. And then they start counting the plants in there, like the trees, plants, and everything. They do like soil probing, so like on a vertical scale, but also then on a horizontal at different depths. And then they will essiccate everything, and then they will measure what actually is in there. And part of that methodology has been published in the science magazine Nature. And what it addresses is actually that we have a lot of different elements that come together. So we have local communities living in that areas. We're talking about 145,000 square hectares, kind of hectares that are protected at the moment. And they also have like own firefighters there that really try to extinguish fires if something happens. The communities are looking at it so that kind of there is no people coming in and doing harm to the forest. So everyone is paid and incentivized by actually keeping that ecosystem alive and then working. I want to show you the journey. So kind of you start with a due diligence application of what actually the area of the credit is. So we have this area staked out, this 145,000 hectares of Amazon forest that is protected since many years. We have we check then what is the methodology, which I told you is about the university and that's been published in the best basically a scientific magazine. And every month, there's a satellite imaging done from the top and then audited by one of the big four, so KPMG, and that they looked at actually there's a difference between what you have, what happens within that square and what happens outside of it. So you actually see that there was this preservation effort done every month. Now we'll skip that and just go to the last part. So we see that when the token actually the token that you can buy then has all the information in there. So you know okay, from which year the carbon emission was saved, that is in there, from which area and so on. And of course we have reputable partners that just show you the whole journey. So it's like a 10-step program. From the beginning where you have the forest and the selection and have like the satellite imaging done, then you have like the audits by the big fours. We have like an audit that's from a financial perspective from another big four in the end of the year. And then in the end you issue those soul-bound tokens which come into the wallet of the buyers. Yeah, and of course you can compensate either like actual emissions, or you can start buying carbon credits for investment purpose for like future offsetting. And you can do good in many perspectives, yeah, from environmental, social, and also governance perspective. And the local communities are sustained with that because they get a part of the proceeds. And even where during this recent floodings that happened in Brazil, so they convey the part of their profits to really just build up schools in the impacted areas. That's a part of the communities that are supported there locally. And yeah, maybe one of the part is that even Formula One, which I'm not a great supporter, but nevertheless, the carbon offsetting of the Formula One Grand Prix in Sao Paulo was one of the events that they did. So overall, try to be greener. And thank you for your attention. I think we are just on time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Cheers. Hashtag be greener, everyone. Now we've got a few more minutes left for some questions. One is already here on the board. How does Carrot Network generate revenue from the approach?
Yeah, so by selling the carbon credit in the end, the tokenized carbon credit, the proceeds will be split in a smart contract according to a fixed key to the waste generator and the hauler and everyone that contributed along the supply chain until it actually have been recycled. And the Carbon Foundation, which is operating the whole thing, becomes also a part of the proceeds. So this is how it can actually survive.
Awesome. Are you guys looking to focus on any other geographies around the world after Brazil?
Yeah, we're looking into that. First we want to start with Brazil because of a couple of reasons I explained. And then afterwards, we're open to look into other countries as well, yeah. The idea is to develop something which is scalable and basically can have a global impact.
Okay, fantastic. Are there any other questions from the crowd? Is that one there? Yeah?
What are some of your main challenges as a business?
Some of the main challenges is sure that even though I think everyone agrees that we want to be more greener and offset our emissions, you would actually need to do something, which means you would need to buy them or find institutions that want to buy it. And those are rather newer methodologies. So there you need to find customers that actually want to jump the ship or really try it. Because so far many funds or investment funds, they just focus on whatever was like standard so far. They may acknowledge actually that this was not the best solution, but as long as it is the solution which is used by industry, then that's what they want to go for. So they wouldn't even bother to kind of look into other solutions, even though they would be better. So that's maybe one of the biggest issues yet, is kind of you need to find those pair-heading partners.
Awesome. Are you looking ever potentially in the next few years to set up any kind of carbon credit projects here in Romania, do you think? Or is that a bit far-fetched still?
You have a lot of nice mountains and forests, so kind of that could be an option actually. We have not yet kind of contemplated it for business purpose, but you never know.
Okay, Transylvanian carbon credits coming soon.
It would be amazing.
Nice. Any other questions, anyone? Okay, well, thank you very much then. Let's put our hands together one last time. Cheers.